Hello, this is Charlie Perez from Big Panda Performance. Today I want to talk about my Atlas Titan that now has 100,000 rounds down the pipe. So before we get started, let's make sure this bad boy is empty so we can see there's nothing in the chamber. Put it hammer down. So this gun has been my primary competition gun for the last few years. It has been rock solid, reliable for me through that whole time. I've only had a few parts that I've had to replace, and I consider that stuff kind of normal wear and tear. But I wanted to give a detailed review on this guy to show you like what does an Atlas Titan look like with 100,000 rounds on it. So if we take a quick look at this thing up close, we can see that the DLC finish looks pretty much brand new. This gun exclusively gets drawn out of a Kydex holster, but the only holster wear that I've noticed on this thing is up here in the front, and maybe that's those sandy draws when the range gets really sandy, that kind of stuff. There's a couple little nicks, that kind of thing that's happened on this, but overall, I mean, this finish has been dramatically better than any other finish I've ever used in my life. From a fit perspective, if we look at the barrel here, usually you can see how much barrel play there is when you rack the slide back slowly. If we push down on the barrel here and slowly pull back, you can see that there's like zero downward movement of the barrel when I pull it slightly out of battery. Then it goes out of battery as normal. There is a little bit of front to back play here. I don't know if you can see that. That's kind of normal as the gun ages. At the front end of this guy, if we look here, there's no perceivable movement of the barrel within the slide. And then if we look at the kind of like the frame to slide fit, there's a little bit of side to side shift and a little bit of up and down shift, but nothing horribly bad. In comparison, if I set this away, I'll show you my backup Titan. This is my backup Titan. It's pretty much a mirror of my primary Titan. If we, it's empty. If we look at the fit of this guy, it's a little bit tighter left to right and up and down, but it's pretty comparable. From a accuracy perspective, if we go back to this guy, from an accuracy perspective, it has been super accurate the whole life of it. I can shoot all rounds touching groups at 10 yards. The parts that I have had to replace on this guy is that proactively I replaced the springs, so the recoil spring and the hammer spring or the main spring, I replaced those along with the firing pin spring every 10,000 rounds. I've had to feed this guy 2 different slide lock pins. These slide lock pins, I consider them a wear item. The lower lugs on the barrel end up wearing a flat in that slide lock pin. That's kind of normal stuff. One irregular replacement that I had to make is I use an EGW HD extractor on this, and the cup of it, or the finger, had a chip come out of the tip of it at about 65,000 rounds. This is causing a little bit of erratic ejection of the brass. So I proactively swapped that out. It wasn't jamming or anything, but I figured that if I can make the ejection of the brass more consistent, it should be more reliable. So I replaced that. And then just recently at 95K, the disconnector finally wore down. So in here, the disconnector here, the tip of the disconnector gets slowly worn down over time, as you can see here, as the breech face pushes it down on the underside of the slide. That's a wear point. And eventually the tip of the disconnector gets wore down enough that it doesn't disconnect reliably anymore. Other than that, I've had to do a couple sear and hammer engagement refreshes, I think 3 total, to keep the trigger nice and crisp and functioning good. And the only thing that's kind of a bummer for me on this guy is that I have it developed a crack in the slot or the frame, so you can barely see it. If I point it out right here, you can see a little bit of a line of a crack there. That crack is going through the whole frame. And what I'll do is I'll pause this video for a minute, and then I'll bust this thing all the way apart so you can see the individual parts and see what's worn on the inside. All right, so give me a chance to get this thing torn apart, and then we'll get back at it. All right, now I got this gun all torn apart. Here's the upper portion. I got the slide off of the barrel and guide rod and that kind of stuff. So if we look at the slide, the inner part of the slide, we can see that we have the normal kind of wear stuff like in here where the upper lugs are. You can see a little bit of slide to frame wear. You can see where the hammer rides, picks up the next round. If we look at the breech face here, you can see the wear on that. There's no cracks or anything, any problems that I've had with this guy. It's been super reliable. The barrel itself, you can see this DLC barrel. There's very minimal wear on the barrel itself due to this DLC coating. And if we look at the feed ramp, we can see down into the rifling. There's very little wear on the rifling itself. I primarily, kind of exclusively, I actually should say, is use coated bullets for this guy. So I use the Gallant coated bullets. They work great. I haven't had any kind of link or lock or unlock issues. This thing is pretty solid. One of the surprising things to me is this Dawson toolless guide rod here. This guy, in prior 2011 builds I've had this thing fail where this little locking lever here, this little lever will get bent. This one hasn't bent on me. I'm kind of amazed. Maybe it's because it's been DLC hardened, makes it a little bit harder or something. Maybe that's what did it. I don't know. Maybe I got lucky. But usually these things only last about 50 or 60,000 rounds. So for it to go 100,000 rounds is pretty amazing to me. I got the reverse plug and then our 9-pound recoil spring that I prefer to use in my gun. So as you can see from the upper perspective, it all looks really good. There's no major issues with this thing, no cracks, nothing like that, and works pretty good. All right, so now I'm going to pause this for a second, and then I'm going to move over to the lower, the frame section. All right, let's go into that.